Awesome. Thanks everyone for joining. Really excited to have you today. We're really pumped to show you how you can win your line reviews or get prepared to even have the meeting with line reviews. And we have a lot of different capabilities that we're going to walk you through today. I'm Caleb Surma, Director of Account Management. Had the pleasure to host you with Adrian today, and she'll do a quick background as well. I came from retail, 14 years in retail, one of the biggest merchandisers in the United States, and really had the opportunity to help serve numerous different buying groups and cross-functional teams and how they consume data and insights from brands and manufacturers to then sell it within the retail store. I've now been at OpenBrand for 2 years on the other side of the house, helping support brands, manufacturers, and retailers with that business and really find opportunities to grow, share, target certain segments of consumers, and really understand market dynamics and where you can capitalize on that. Adrian's our co-host, so I'll introduce Adrian.
Thanks, Caleb. I'm Adrienne Spear, Senior Analyst with OpenBrand. I specialize in OPE categories, and I've helped several of our customers prepare for line reviews, and we're going to walk through some of those examples today. I do want to point out, though, that our category coverage spans many other categories besides the examples that you're going to see today. So if you're curious what our coverage looks like, feel free to reach out.
Thanks, Adrian. All right, we're going to start out. Everyone knows that sales data is a very important and critical piece as you prepare for a line review to really show those merchants where the opportunity is. But it's one piece of the puzzle, and that's where Open Brand helps give you a cohesive end-to-end solution when it comes to consumer demand signals, who's winning and losing from a share perspective, where are there specific audiences of consumers and where they're leaking to, how you capitalize that, and then how do you sustain growth? So we're going to talk through some tactics and strategies of how we can support you either currently or hopefully in the future. We'd love to partner with you. So I'm going to go through a little bit deeper on really breaking down this puzzle piece. Where I've seen success helping clients and customers and success at retail is really understanding 10,000 feet of what's happening in the market, what's happening in the economy as things have shifting. You think about we've had policy changes and tariff impacts throughout this year. We've had different energy prices affecting different goods and different transportations, and you think about supply chain. So really looking at those different factors as examples. Then you think about like the housing market as well. Are more people buying homes with higher rates right now? Are they slowing down? Are they renting? Are they buying existing homes? So there's so many different macroeconomic factors that being prepared to know like where the market's headed and the dynamics that are changing and presenting that story to the merchandise, it really gives you the due diligence to then go deeper into the brand level, the SKU level, and really get tactical. One thing to know when I talk about kind of the economic landscape, we have a chief economist at Open Brand and an economic team that helps support you to get some of those factors too. You might be wondering, how do we know all this? How do I put this all together? That's where we come in as a key critical partner for you to really diagnose the market. When you see this kind of arrow down, so we start very high level and then we start to get funneled down. And that's when the strategy building, the really tactical conversations come to play. We talked about market share. I mean, everyone needs to know what's your position in the market, but then where's the direction? Where are you headed? Or where is your competition headed? And how do you combat that competition? Think about different pricing and promotional strategies. You're going into a line review, whether it's a new SKU, a hero SKU, you want to know what that entry price point might be based on what your competition doing and based on what's actually selling. And then think about kind of the assortment landscape too. For example, are you seeing new debuts, new products hit specific retailers or specific channels? And how do you frequently monitor that and really have a good pulse of what the market's doing within a specific category? Buyer dynamics, huge untapped resource that you can leverage Open Brand for. Think about why are people buying specific products? What drove them to that purchase? What drove them to not buy your brand and buy a competitor brand? What were all the reasons behind that? We can really diagnose that for you as well. And I talked about new products. I do think that's another really under leveraged asset. We think about innovation, different attributes, different configurations of your product. What's the market doing? Are consumers really buying that innovation and seeing that selling point, or are they going back to kind of the traditional products? And those are some things we can uncover as well with partner with Open Brand. So I'm gonna pass this over to Adrian, get you more of a real life example. We have three examples today. Adrian's gonna talk about them with zero turn riding mowers, and we'll kind of go through that. And Yeah, kick it over to you, Adrian.
Thanks, Caleb. Yeah, so this first example is a smaller but very well-established CTR manufacturer that we're going to call Brand C. They were preparing for a line review with a major retailer partner that they were already established with. And even though the brand is not the category leader, we came in to help them be able to demonstrate why they really deserve continued support with this retailer and what future growth opportunities might look like in terms of a competitive assortment that competes against other major retailers, as well as aligning their promotional strategy to better position them within this particular retailer and to compete against those competitors out there in the retail landscape.
Yeah, let's check out some of the breakdown here, Adrian.
Yeah, so starting with share, obviously, like you mentioned, Caleb, we want to start with that 10,000-foot view, but this doesn't tell the entire story. This just shows what happened and not necessarily why. So we can see that brand C is definitely being, outbought by some other brands in the market, but telling the story of why they're growing and how they can better be positioned within that retailer assortment is what we're able to do, in addition to just saying, here's what happened with this brand in the last year. Did they gain share? Where did they gain share? And we can even get down to the SKU level to be able to help our retailer and our manufacturer customers be able to showcase which SKUs are really those hero SKUs within that lineup and why they should be placed within a retailer.
See, I think that's a really interesting point. There's kind of two things to that. There's one, having more SKU offerings doesn't mean you're going to gain share. It might be 15% of your offerings are actually moving the needle from a sales perspective. The other really important thing to think about is, did you gain one percentage point or 2 percentage points, which might sound kind of minimal, but then when you connect that to the size of the market and you've seen millions of dollars in the volume and the opportunity, it really drives strong discussions with the merchandisers and the merchants while you're having those line reviews. So bringing that all together and really being tactical and strategic with your conversation is where you're going to see success in winning your assortment with that merchant that you're talking with.
Yeah, absolutely. Good point.
Conversion. You want to speak a little bit about conversion, Adrian?
Yeah, so these are some of the data points that we were able to pull together to really show Brand C's strength in the market. And these are data points that you can't get just by looking at share. So when we use our Mindshare survey to leverage consumer purchasing behavior and demographics, we could see that even though Brand C's consideration rate, or what we might call draw rate, is much lower than some of the major brands, their close rate is 74%, and that is far above and beyond any of the leading brands in the market. So even though fewer customers might be aware of this brand, when they do consider that brand, they lock in and purchase 74% of the time. We were also able to show some shopper demographics that showed that high income customers are the majority of this customer base here for this brand, and that really is showing where this retailer could drive increased value spend from those customers. Looking at the promotional strategy as well, we were able to show that Brand C was not as competitive as some of the other players at this particular retailer in terms of promotional value or promotional frequency. So being able to help them optimize their promotional strategy going into this line review was really key for them to help position their brand in a way that will perform better there.
That's a really interesting take when you think about the promo intensity. So obviously you have your key shopping seasons by category, and that varies. But then understanding how deep of a discount your competitors are doing and how is that correlating to share gains or share losses. Additionally, is there an opportunity to promote in an off week and draw some of that traffic towards your brand to help drive share and drive margins? And then going back to the conversion rate here, it's really interesting. Brand B, a lot of people are considering Brand B, but only 61% are actually walking away with it. Well, why? Was it the price? Was it the salesperson? Was it the offerings at the store? There's so many different factors that go into that, and we can shed some light on the reasons why as well.
Yeah,
That's
great
a
point.
great example, Adrian. Let's do another one. So we have three. This one's really fun. Think about different attributes, different configurations of your products, depending on what category you're in. That's really important. And we talked about innovation. We talked about new SKUs hitting the market previously. Well, this example is really fun because it really pinpoints an opportunity within the microwave space. What's powering the microwave from a voltage standpoint? What capacity level is a microwave? Thinking about the new home scenario and existing home scenarios, we talked about the macroeconomics. Well, we're going to shed some light on more urban markets, more a little bit smaller kitchens, for example. Well, where is that opportunity when it comes to a specific size of product that could sell well on the shelves? So this next view is going to really show you where OpenBrand sheds light on that. And you can see on the left-hand side here, we have specifically each image within the market. This scenario is within microwaves. Where is it selling at? So where is it being assorted? What are the price points at every single retailer that we cover? Within the market, and then all the attributes. So you think about the voltage, think about the color, the style, and where is that niche opportunity? So if you're going into a line review and you said, we pinpointed this opportunity where you might only have 3% of the category or this size of microwaves, we want to be that player to help sell more products within your store or on your online channel. So really, really cool use case here just to narrow down on that opportunity for you. And we can do this across all the categories that we cover. And as I said, we work with many different manufacturers and retailers. Just a testimony of how we've helped support our clients and where we've seen success. At Open Brand, we have researchers and analysts that every day they're in the data. They're looking at the market, what's moving the needle, where are the opportunities. And the really fun thing about it is that we provide a thought partnership from a non-biased view, meaning we have just a perspective purely by data. We're not kind of confined in the walls of a retailer or a manufacturer. We're looking at the whole market and where that opportunity is. So I really encourage you to work with us and our analysts to really give you just some perspective. You might have to think differently or kind of strategize with and kind of go to that line review to get collectively. We're going to jump to one more example, real life. I'll pitch it over to Adrian, talk about a new category opportunity.
Thanks, Caleb. Yeah, so this one's a little bit outside of the traditional line review process, but I think it's a really interesting example to highlight because this is another way that we can help support our customers. So a somewhat newer, smaller OPE manufacturer was looking for growth opportunities and also trying to get their foot in the door with retailers that they don't have a current partnership with, and really just to be able to evaluate where emerging categories are growing and if expanding for them could help grow their share in the market. So we were able to help this customer with mini chainsaws specifically. So we can go to the next slide, Caleb. And we were able to leverage not only market share data to show how brand X is actually growing in the market. And we can see that just in the last 4 years, they've grown, from just a couple $1 million in revenue in major retail channel to over $30 million in revenue across OPE. And that kind of growth is really compelling for retailers, especially maybe some smaller players that maybe want to invest now in a smaller and growing brand before they really take off. We were also able to look at key feature sets for them, in this case, bar length, to show where demand is really coming from in terms of mini chainsaw market and customer preferences. So we were able to show them that over the last several years, really the 6-inch long bar length mini chainsaws are where the growth is happening and where customers are preferring to buy. And even though it's not shown on these particular slides, we also showed them which retailers are leading that growth for this particular category. So to understand where those opportunities are to maybe get their foot in the door with a retailer that already has an assortment, but also maybe retailers that don't really carry a lot of these items yet and maybe wanting to expand their assortment to be able to kind of lead that growth in the market.
That's a really good point, Adrian. I love how you break it down by attribute, in this scenario by the length of the chainsaw, and where some things are emerging. And when we think about emerging players, also just again coming from the retail side, having a pulse on what is emerging, is there innovation, are there new brands in the marketplace, and speaking that language to the merchant that, hey, we've done our due diligence, we know where the market's going. Here's some competitors that we're keeping an eye on. We'll give you a leg up as well in that conversation. So really cool to just see that and this breakdown by attribute can be meaningful when you're pinpointing that opportunity. Thanks for discussing that, Adrian. All right, we're going to move on. Another just testimony here, and really some things we've been saying all along is exactly the sort of data. So we think about that comprehensive end-to-end market view. That's what Open Brand's expertise really are. It's understanding the consumer sentiment, the consumer demand signals, um, merchandising and manufacturing and brand strategies when it comes to promotional types, entry price points, when to promote, the kind of the frequency behind that, and then how do those strategies lead to share gains and share performance overall? So really bringing the tactics together and then seeing did it work or did it not, and understanding the dynamic changes within the economic landscape and bringing that together. That's where we're really would love to have that partnership with you and kind of explain that in more detail in the future. So we're prepared. We have a product line review readiness report. So believe it or not, we basically have it ready to go from A to Z that you will walk into these meetings well prepared, full agenda. What are action items? What are the strategic content you're going to have during that discussion? And how we can support you through that journey. And I did say this before, not everyone just has a line review, right? Even if you're preparing to win the meeting to have a line review is another scenario that we would love to support you as well. So I'm going to show you what this looks like from a packaged line review readiness report. I do know the experience that I've had the 14 years in merchandising. It takes a lot of time, it's a lot of effort, a lot of people's energy and time and just aligning on what you want to present can take weeks, even up to months, and we can help reduce that workload as well and also give you that non-biased perspective. So really walking in there well prepared. What's the purpose? Obviously, you want to win that assortment. You want to win that whether channel, whether it's online or if you're going to want to run a test that's within select number of stores. Um, Really, just what is the purpose behind this and what's going to be kind of your next steps? You want to break down also you want to break down the executive summary. So when you think about, hey, I'm going to pass this, you're going to be meeting with merchants and buyers and different groups that they have a nice piece of material that summarize really what you're trying to get out of this meeting. And then what are the kind of key questions you're going to ask? And we'll kind of go through different scenarios here. So obviously, what is the strategy? What is your strategy when it comes to different channel? If you're going to go online, if you're going to go specific assortment with segmentation, so do you want to do certain areas within the United States, or if it's domestically or globally, how you can kind of help through that? And then coming with a SWOT analysis, like where's the strengths, where's the opportunity, but where do you see competitive threats? We talked about emerging brands. That would be a really good place to say, like, here's something we're keeping an eye on. Is there a threat from a margin eroding standpoint? Meaning, like, are we going too deep on our promotions? Like, where's that kind of sweet spot that you can promote heavily, but also see the correlation with share gains and also really delight the guest and consumer to buy your products through our draw and close rates as well. So, a really good kind of quadrant here to break down the different talking points and discussions in your line review. And then we break down, so we all, like I said in the very beginning, like that high level macroeconomics, what's really the intent here? Where are we going to win? What channel do we want to play in? Now you break down to that category. What's the category dynamics? We talked about different attributes, for example, different sizes of microwaves or different lengths of a chainsaw. So where is that kind of specific product type that you really want to get in the weeds in and discuss? Like, here's how we're gonna grow with you, ex merchant, and here's really our strategy based on what we're seeing from a share perspective. Also, you can pinpoint specifically the retailer you're discussing with. So it's unmasked data, meaning you can look at specific retailers, you can look at specific brands, house brands, private label, national brands, where whatever you really see that threat from a competitive perspective, you can pinpoint that with our solutions. This view is a really great view. We talked about leakage, which that means is that, hey, a consumer was going to go buy your brand. They're considering buying your brand or product, but they didn't. They left and bought a different brand. You're leaking that consumer that you potentially had and pinpointing those demographics as well. So think about household size, income levels. Like, where is that target segment that your marketing team could even say, hey, here's where we really want to focus on because we're leaking too much to X competitor. We kind of summarize this for you and really find the tactics where you can put your resources and investments into. The next slide is channel specific. So this is online summary, just kind of an example of, okay, if we're going to start online first and then maybe see how the results are working, and then we want to get into the stores. Or if the buyer or merchant's like, hey, we know we want to run a test instead, and here's the channel specifically, you can break it down by that kind of different segment and say, like, here's the opportunity in the online growth, here's this opportunity within the brick and mortar channel, and really giving that more of a strategic discussion with that merchandiser.
Yeah, Caleb, that's a really interesting one to touch on. We've seen enormous growth in durables purchases, especially since the pandemic, and really a lot of that growth has leveled off, and it's growing slower, but it's not going away. So being able to really optimize that omni-channel strategy is more important than ever.
That's a great point. And even thinking about historical trends too, you talked about kind of during the COVID era, like we have 4 years of history within our market share. So really understanding kind of the trends historically, but then even thinking about our consumer segment and how their needs have changed over time. We have over 10 years of history understanding the consumer, and you kind of marry that together, you're getting a really powerful story to bring to that merchant. Good point, Adrian. I think we have one more slide on this as well that helps kind of, yeah. So really thinking about kind of, I talked about when are you promoting, how frequent are you promoting, what's the depth of discount. Our competitive intelligence solution really gives you kind of the end to end from pricing, promotion, product, and placement. So if you think about, hey, I'm going in this line review and I know the share of shelf by X competitor. I know exactly how many unique SKUs are being sold at X merchant and by Y channel. How do we reduce some of those SKUs and award the business to you as a brand or manufacturer, and pinpointing those attributes or configurations? So identifying where that opportunity will be is very helpful, and that's how we can help support you from a competitive intelligence perspective as well. So all these different slides is our readiness report. Can be pre-populated for you. We can help support you and have discussion with our analysts as a thought partner. It's a really giving you a leg up into those line reviews and going in there with intent to win the business.
Yeah, and Caleb, I know you touched on this earlier, but I
Yeah,
think it's worth repeating is just that we have a whole team of analysts that are there to support customers with these types of reviews and essentially any other custom inquiry or need that they can't answer themselves just by looking at the data. So this template is a huge asset in terms of a starting point, but you're not on your own. We're here to support you through that. We're here to help you tell the story of why your brand is competing the way it is and how we can help improve your assortment and improve your chances going into the line review of a good outcome.
that's a really good point. And where we've seen successes like there, and I think this is kind of cliche, like no question is a bad question. It's true though. Like just engage with us and we can start a conversation. Hey, I'm thinking about this in this way. Well, how would you go about it? Or where have you seen success? Like just starting that engagement with us can lead to a lot of different deep conversations, specifically how you go and conquer and win that line review. So we encourage you to reach out at any point in time. We reach out to Adrian or myself directly. And if you want more content on this specific report, you can scan this QR code and it will be emailed to you, and we can support you in any way. I really, really appreciate the time. I know there's been some questions in the chat that we can address. Otherwise, reach out directly. So thank you for your time. Thank you, Adrian. It's good to see you again.
Thanks, Caleb. Thanks, everyone, for joining us.